It's a Heidel minicast. And now, Scott Clark.
Today's Heidel quote comes from Anthony A. Hoekema, The Bible and the Future, published by William B. Erdman's Publishing Company, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 1979. Beginning on page 178 and continuing to page 179, Hoekema writes, Revelation 20, 1 through 6, does not support the postmillennial position. As will be shown later, this passage describes the reigning of the souls of believers with Christ in heaven during the present era, and does not picture a future golden age. Let us look at three interpretations of this passage, which we have found to be held by representative postmillennialists. Both Warfield and Bettner accept the common amillennial interpretation of these verses, agreeing that they describe the binding of Satan during the present age and the reign of the souls of deceased believers with Christ in heaven, also during the present age. On this interpretation, however, what basis can be found in this passage for the belief in a future millennial golden age? It is to be remembered that the only place where the Bible mentions a millennium is in Revelation 20. If these verses give no evidence for the expectation of a future millennial golden age, what compelling proof do we have that there will be such an age? J. Marcellus Kick agrees that the binding of Satan is taking place now, but interprets verse 4 as describing living believers who are now reigning on the earth with Christ. There are two difficulties with Kick's interpretation of verse 4. First, to understand, quote, the souls that reign with Christ, close quote, as referring to believers who are still living on earth, conflicts with the earlier statement, quote, I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded, close quote, verse 4. And also with a later statement, quote, the rest of the dead did not come to life, close quote, verse 5. Second, how can living believers be said to reign with Christ for 1,000 years when each one lives not much longer than the normal lifespan of 80 years and 10, if that long? Moreover, even on the basis of Kick's interpretation of the passage, what ground is there in these words for expecting a future millennial golden age? Professor Shepard holds that the binding of Satan is still future, whereas he understands the reigning of souls with Christ in the same way that Kick does. The objections to Kick's view mentioned above also apply here. There is an additional difficulty. In Shepard's view, the 1,000 years during which Satan is bound appear to be a different period than the 1,000 years during which souls reign with Christ. But does it not seem far more likely that the 1,000 years, mentioned 5 times in these 6 verses, stand for the same period of time, particularly since the expression the 1,000 years occurs twice in the passage, once in verse 3 and once in verse 5. Even if we grant, however, that Shepard's interpretation of this passage may be correct, again we ask, what basis is there in Revelation 20, 1 through 6 for the expectation of a future millennial golden age?
Thanks for listening. Tune in tomorrow for more from the Heidelcast, brought to you by HeidelbergReformationAssociation.org. Don't forget, when the coin in the coffer clinks, the cost of bandwidth shrinks. Copyright Heidelberg Reformation Association. All rights reserved. This is a Heidel Media production.